Flash CS5 and CS6 lesson 5, and today's lesson we'll be using ActionScript to load content together with use components together with using components as well. So we'll learn how to use Flash user interface components. We'll learn how to use the list component and customize its parameters. Trigger an ActionScript event listener when the selected item in a list component instance changes. Use the UILoader to control Swift file and bitmap image loading and display. Change the source file of the UILoader component with ActionScript. Work with the URLLoader class to load text data. Add an event listener to respond to successful completion of a data load operation. Set the properties of a text field with ActionScript and use the UIScrollBar component to create a scrolling text field. Right. So the main goal of this lesson, one of the main goals of this lesson is to integrate multiple files into a single Flash project, and we'll be using what we've learned in our previous lesson. Now, if we look at our file over here, our Finder. Now, notice over here we got in our start folder. We actually have the instruments that we created in our previous lesson, and we also have the Paint project that we did in our previous lesson as well. Okay, so the list, now we're going to use the list component that makes it easy to create lists for the users to choose from. Now the list component has parameters that can be set in the Flash interface or in ActionScript for adding labels and associated data with items in the list. Okay, so let's just begin by opening. Okay, let's go back to lesson 5. We'll start. I'm going to open this one. So here, lesson 5, start A. Let's show all. Okay, and go to a file, save as. Okay, so over here we are going to choose. Okay, so now you can see this. So this is the background, this interface background, this is the text, and this is the ActionScript layer, which is nothing anyway. It's an empty frame there. So we just got to create a new layer over here and call it components. Okay, so now we got to open the components panel over here. Open the user interface and choose the list component over here. Okay, so now we have the frame 1 of components layer selected. So let's open up frame 1 here and components. So we just gotta drag this one over here. Unfortunately, we have, unfortunately we already have a component over here as well. Okay, never mind. We'll just do the same thing. We'll just use the existing one. Okay, so we got the list here. Okay, and what we gotta do next is that we gotta create a list of files the user can use to select and load into this project. So let's make sure this is selected. So let's go properties. We gotta come over here. Okay, so we gotta call this instance load list. Okay, and we gotta go to the different component parameters. Okay. So make sure this is selected. I'm going to change the X to 30, the Y to 150, the width to 140, and the height to 60. Okay, so now with the list component still selected, let's go to component parameters section. So over here. And what we gotta do is select the data provider parameter. Okay, so this one over here, I'm gonna click here. And what happens is that this is the value dialog box. And we got add 3 items here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we got add the first item and the label. Okay, we got just type here instruments. The next one will be paint. Okay, for this one we'll type instruments.swf. This will be paint.swift. Okay, and the last one will be gallery, and here it will be gallery.swift. Okay, so I notice now there are 3 items over here. Now later we'll learn how to load content into Flash using just ActionScript, but if we want to load Swift, JPEG, PNG and GIF files, we use the UILoader component, and which can save us several steps. Okay, so the first thing is that we'll use the UILoader to load Swift files, and later we'll be using the same component to load JPEG images into the gallery file. And finally, we will load text into a gallery file using ActionScript only, since text files cannot be loaded with the UILoader component. Okay, so we have to make sure that the frame 1 of the components layer is selected. Okay, and let's open up our components panel. Okay, and I'm going to make sure this thing, the UILoader is not here. Okay, so let's go over here to the UILoader, and we've got to drag it into on stage. Okay, actually it's already there, so okay, go click. So there it is. Okay, so over here we got to come over to the properties panel, and we got to call this load window, and we got to change the position and size. X we'll choose 2005. For Y we choose 140. For width we choose 550, and for height we choose 400. So notice now in this part it actually covers this whole area over here. So we'll be loading a series of Swift files that have the stage size of 550 by 400 pixels into this UILoader. Okay, so now we'll add a change event listener to the list component. So whenever a person selects something here, it will listen for these changes here, and it will trigger a change event. So we'll listen to the change event and respond to it, just like we did previously with other events like a mouse event or mouse click or mouse down. Okay, so let's make sure we've got to choose the first frame of the actions layer. And we got to open up the actions component here. And by the way, I'm just gonna put this over here just to make sure it's there, so that okay, so I can just type this in here. Okay, so let's just type this in here, load list and event listener, event change, load file, and we got to create a function called load file, and we got event void, and we got to just type this in. Okay, so that's the event listener. We're saying that, okay, so for load list, we got, if anything happens, if there's event changes in load list, we got to call this function called load file. Now we can load anything like a Swift or JPEG or PNG, PNG or GIF file into a UILoader component by setting the source property of the UILoader. Okay, so what we do, for example, is to set the source property of the UILoader instance name to the path of the file to be loaded. Okay, so we want to write a function that determines which file to load by using data from the list. So remember the list that we created just now over here. So remember this list here, right? So we got to get our information from all of these things to load into the UILoader. So come on back over here and make sure actions, this is over here now. Okay, so just say load window dot source equals to e target dot selected item dot data. Okay, so in this event, E is the event, so the target is the list, selected item is the property of the item that the user chose from the list, and data is the data property. So let's just save and test. Okay, so click, click. Okay, it's an unhandled error because we have not created gallery.swift yet. Okay, so we got to create the gallery swift file now. Okay, and so how we got to create the gallery? We got what we got to do is that we got to use the gallery fla file in lesson 5. So let's open the gallery FLA file. That will be our starting point. So this has already been created, and I notice that there's only a basically 3 layers: the background, thumbnails, the text, and the loader. Okay, and of course, okay, and these are all. This is a movie clip, and we select all these. These are actually buttons over here. So all these are buttons. So it's already partially been done for you. Okay. So I'm gonna do a save as. Okay, so I'm not gonna save as, guys. Just gonna leave it as it is. Okay, but I'm just gonna keep a copy just to make sure that if I overwrite it, I still got the original copy. So I'm gonna duplicate this one. Okay, so that if I make any mistakes, I can always go for my backup copy. Okay, so here we are. So let's start. Okay, and notice over here, by the way, that in FLA there's different, all of these items, there is information about properties over here. So this is called info, this is called LDR, if you look over here. And of course, this is called thumbs MC, and each button has button 1 to button 7. So you see button 2, button 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So we're going to add event listeners to all the different thumbnails, and we'll do the same for all the 7 buttons. Okay, so we indicate a path for each of the buttons so that our ActionScript targets are within the thumbs MC. So what you got to do is this, we got to come over here. Okay, so remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 thumbnails. Remember this. So what we got to do is we got to add event listener for every one of them. So thumbs underscore MC dot button 1 dot add event listener mouse event dot click loader 1. So this says for thumbs MC dot button 1 add event listener, we listen for the mouse click and call the loader 1 function. So notice how this corresponds to thumbs MC, and what's inside the thumb MC? If we double click it, it's button 1, button 2, button 3, it's all the way to 7. So button 1, so when this is clicked, thumbs MC dot button 1 is clicked, then we'll call the function. So we'll just go back here. So same thing. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we got just change here to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and over here the same thing, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so, and we gotta create a loader1 function as well. So come here, function load LDR1 event void LDR.source equals to images image1.jpg. Okay, so what happens here is that when we do this, oops, okay, so the function does it. It says loader source is equals to, so whenever you change this one, what will happen is it will try to load this image, which is, if you go to image, which it says from this directory, go up one level, go to images, we gotta load this image here, which is images image1.jpg. Okay, so okay, so we're gonna add one more line here. We're gonna say text load text picture 1.text 0xFFEF59A. Now, what happens is that it will load the source as well as load text, which will load text into the text area over here. Now, this function has not been created yet. Okay. Now, the first parameter is the file name of the text we want to load, and the other one is the color to set the background of the text, color of the text field. Okay, so we got to just do the same thing over here, and we got to create functions for every one of them. Okay, so just come over here, copy. I just got to copy everything here. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and we've got to call this to and we got to change this value to D0A8. Okay, 3 D6 D5 4 The color value for this is gonna be BAB883 5 BA black sheep. Okay, so here's 6 and 6 FCFFC6, and finally 7 and over here is BA8E. Sorry, E. Okay, so after this so now we've done this. Okay, and let me just hold on, just change my preferences for my auto format. I don't like this. Okay, and let's auto format everything again. So we got all our functions here, and we've got to create one more function which is the text load function over here. So we gotta come over here, just gotta type this in. So what this happens is that we are going to load text. We gotta create the text load function to load text from an external file. And this is what the function is going to look like. So we got to create a new loader, and what happens is that when you call text load, okay, so notice there is a string here and there's a color which is unsigned integer. So uint means unsigned integer. That means the integer, the number, does not have any negative values. So what it says the loader must load a new URL request and info.background. Color goes to color. Okay, so there it is. So what it does there is it calls this loader function looking for this file, and there's a background color, and it calls and it sets the color to whatever color that we created. Now what happens here is that we gotta use the complete event to confirm the loading of external text before displaying the text. Now, one of the things that we could have done is that we could have done this. In fact, info text equals to loader.data. But this might not work. Why? Because when we do this, right, notice that the lines of code come almost immediately, and we might not have downloaded this whole file that the loader data has been fully loaded yet. So we cannot do this, even though it might work sometimes, especially if you're working on the current, in our own local PC. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come here and say, okay, actually we can just put it here, no problem. Then listener event complete text. Okay, and we gotta put something over here. Display text. Info text equals to loader.data. So what it means is that, okay, once this has been loaded, call this function, then only we'll load the text into our data. So this is what our text looks like. This is what our code looks like over here. Okay, we can put this one over here, no problem. If you want to make it look like what it looks like exactly in the book, but it won't make a difference. So that's what we have so far, and let's just try it out. So notice we can actually do this, and notice the changes here. Now some of the text is, now notice there's not a lot of text. It just talks about, it just writes over here, but let's go into our Finder to find out exactly what is actually inside our text. Now it looks like it works, but let's go to desktop. Okay, let's go lesson 5. Let's go look at this text. Notice there is actually a lot more text over here, but when we look here, where's the text? It's actually hidden underneath here. So what we need to do is that we need to put in a scroll bar over here. Okay, so let's come over here. Let's save this first. Okay, okay, we gotta save this one. Okay, so So let's select this one. Notice it's called info. Okay, and we're going to open the text menu, ensure that the text field has been set to scrollable. So let's the text menu. Okay, and set it to scrollable. Okay, and now we got to go to our components, and we got to set the UIScrollBar. So over here, okay, and we got to put it into the upper right corner of the text field. So let's make sure you come over here so you can see what I'm going to do. So I'm going to come here and going to put it over here. Okay, we got to use the existing one actually, because it seems our file already has a lot of this stuff. We got to put it over here. Okay. Okay, so now that we've got this scroll bar over here, okay, okay, so we got to go to the component parameters of the properties inspector. So let's select this one over here. Okay, and we got to choose the scroll target name, and now it will automatically associate itself with the abutting text field. So make sure this says info over here. So let's just test it again. Now notice that the thing is not here. So let's just change the snapping here. Modify view snapping. This doesn't work. So now I can move it here. So let's change our snapping to snap to grid. Yeah, this doesn't work. So that doesn't work. Okay. This doesn't work very well. So snapping doesn't really work that well. Okay, so that's there. So over here, so notice there's a scroll bar over here. And notice now all the text is over here. Now actually for this, what we can always do is that we can always align using this tool over here. So that's the best way to do it, and obviously here. So that's the best way to make sure everything's aligned. So notice there's a scroll bar, and that's how it works. Okay, so now this is done. Let's go back to lesson 5, working copy. Okay, so let's go back to working copy over here. Okay, so let's run this now. Notice now this is over here, and actually load things here. And the reason for that is because when we did our tests, what happened was that the gallery.swift was created when we do our testing over here. Notice it was created just now according to our time indicator over here. So it's just created, so that's why it works. Okay. So what I suggest to you is to try on your own, create a new Flash movie. Maybe you can add another item over here, and then you can create another Flash movie here. Or you can replace the JPEG files with your own JPEG files. So over here, so you can change the JPEGs over here and experiment with other UI components. So there's a checkbox, button, combo box, data grid, label, list, numeric stepper, progress bar, radio button, scroll pane, slider, text area, text input, and lots more stuff here to help you create new user interface components. And in the next lesson, we'll learn how to create preloaders to monitor the loading progress of your Flash files. Thank you, and see you in the next lesson.